Welcome to Spectrum Sphere, the hub where diverse explorations meet. Today, we delve into the depths of history to unmask the Korean War, a conflict often overshadowed in the collective memory. Before we embark, ensure you're part of our community by subscribing to our channel and ringing the notification bell to join us on our weekly voyages of discovery. Turning back the pages to Korea's early narrative, we find a land rooted in rich traditions and royal dynasties. For centuries, the peninsula witnessed a flux of power and culture, evolving through the Three Kingdoms period, enduring the Goryeo dynasty, and the influential Joseon era that shaped much of its identity. In 1910, the Japanese Empire annexed Korea, extinguishing the Joseon dynasty and enforcing colonial rule. This marked the beginning of a dark era, as Korean culture was suppressed and its people subjected to the whims of imperial ambitions, deeply scarring the national psyche and stirring the embers of resistance. As World War II came to an end, the fate of Korea was hastily decided by powers abroad. In 1945, American and Soviet forces agreed to divide the peninsula at the 38th parallel, setting the stage for a divided Korea, a potent symbol of a world split by Cold War ideologies. Following the end of Japanese occupation, Korea faced a new era of division. In the south, the Republic of Korea was established, supported by the United States and Western allies. Meanwhile, in the north, the Soviet-backed Democratic People's Republic of Korea was formed, cementing the split of the Korean peninsula. The ideological chasm widened as the North embraced communism, spurred by Soviet support, while the South championed capitalism, buoyed by American aid. This stark division mirrored the global Cold War tensions, setting the stage for a confrontation beyond mere border disputes, one reflective of a world divided. Prior to open conflict, the Korean border was a hotspot of military action, with both North and South engaging in numerous skirmishes along the 38th parallel. These confrontations escalated existing tensions, foreshadowing the imminent outbreak of a larger conflict that would soon engulf the peninsula. On June 25, 1950, North Korean forces, armed with Soviet tanks, crossed the 38th parallel in a surprise attack against South Korea. This bold move marked the beginning of the Korean War, as the North aimed to rapidly reunify the peninsula under communist rule. In response to North Korea's aggression, the United Nations acted swiftly, passing a resolution to aid South Korea. A multinational coalition formed, spearheaded by the United States, with forces from various member states converging on the peninsula to support South Korea in repelling the North Korean advance. The United States jumped into action, playing a critical role under the command of General Douglas MacArthur. This well-respected leader orchestrated military operations, with American troops becoming the backbone of the UN's efforts to push back North Korean forces and provide crucial support to their South Korean allies. As North Korean divisions advanced south, they clashed with U.S. troops at the Battle of Osan, the first major engagement for American forces. Task Force Smith, outnumbered and outgunned, attempted to delay the North's movement. Despite valiant efforts, they faced a sobering defeat, underscoring the war's daunting challenges ahead. Sweeping through the Korean peninsula, North Korean forces capitalized on their early momentum. Within days, they overran defensive positions, culminating in the capture of Seoul. The fall of South Korea's capital marked a significant blow, both strategically and psychologically, fueling a sense of urgency in the international community's response to the conflict. As the North pushed forward, UN forces were driven back to a small area in the southeast, known as the Pusan Perimeter. Here, against overwhelming odds, they mounted a desperate last stand. Surrounded on all sides, this bastion of resistance held out as hopes for a counteroffensive hung by a thread. In a daring move, General Douglas MacArthur orchestrated a counteroffensive far north at Incheon. On September 15, 1950, against the odds and the advice of many colleagues, MacArthur's forces launched a surprise amphibious attack. This bold strategy aimed to cut North Korean supply lines and reclaim Seoul, pivotal for UN ambitions. Following the success at Incheon, UN forces quickly moved to retake Seoul, inflicting a significant blow to North Korean morale. By late September, the capital was back in South Korean hands, and the troops didn't stop there. They pressed on, crossing the 38th parallel into North Korea's domain, altering the war's momentum. As UN forces under MacArthur's command advanced further into North Korea, they neared the border with China. This move triggered warnings from Beijing, which feared an encroaching threat. Ignoring these cautions, the coalition pushed on until China dramatically entered the conflict, allying with North Korea and reshaping the war's trajectory. The Battle of Chosin Reservoir marked a turning point. UN troops found themselves encircled by Chinese forces in freezing conditions. The bitter cold claimed more lives than the combat itself, with soldiers facing frostbite and equipment failures. The Allied forces' tenacity in this inhospitable landscape would become legendary. As the Korean War dragged on, both sides dug in, leading to a protracted stalemate. The fighting descended into trench warfare, with conditions and tactics echoing the grim standoffs of World War I. Soldiers on both fronts endured long periods of waiting, punctuated by fierce, bloody assaults for mere yards of territory. The immense human toll of the conflict was starkly evident beyond the battlefield. As war ravaged the Korean landscape, civilians faced widespread devastation. Millions were displaced, creating a dire refugee crisis. Families were torn apart, and many fled their homes seeking safety amidst the chaos of a nation at war. During the conflict, prisoner of war exchanges became a humanitarian focus. The exchange, dubbed Operation Big Switch, saw thousands repatriated. Amidst these exchanges, harrowing accounts surfaced from both sides, leading to serious allegations of war crimes that would leave a lasting stain on the memories of the Korean War. Aerial and naval supremacy were crucial in the Korean War. The United States leveraged its aircraft carriers, launching sorties that targeted North Korean supply lines and support infrastructure. Meanwhile, fighter jets clashed in dogfights overhead, marking the true beginning of the jet age in combat history. As the conflict wore on, the Korean War stood witness to significant technological advancements, notably the introduction of the jet age. Combatants saw the first large-scale aerial dogfights between jet aircraft, such as the iconic battle between the American F-86 Sabre and the Soviet MiG-15, forever altering aerial warfare tactics. The Korean War became a crucible for new warfare tactics. The introduction of jet fighters, helicopters, and improved radio communications revolutionized combat operations. Strategic bombing campaigns and mobile artillery also evolved, as forces adapted to the rugged terrain, underscoring the need for rapid maneuvers and flexible strategies in modern warfare. As the war progressed, both sides leveraged powerful propaganda. The media shaped perceptions, often under censorship, framing the war to galvanize or undermine public support. From posters to broadcasts, every message was designed to rally the masses and project strength, influencing not just morale, but also the broader geopolitical narrative. The path to peace was strewn with obstacles as negotiations commenced at Panmunjom. The two sides grappled with ceaseless debates about prisoners of war, border disputes, and ideological supremacy. Each session was a tug of war, mirroring the frontline stalemate, as they sought an agreement to end the bloodshed. After 2 years of grueling talks, an armistice was finally signed on July 27, 1953. This agreement called for a ceasefire, the establishment of the demilitarized zone, the return of prisoners of war, and a promise to hold a peace conference to secure a formal peace treaty. In the war's wake, the Korean Demilitarized Zone, or DMZ, emerged as a stark symbol of division. Stretching 250 kilometers across the peninsula, this buffer zone also serves as an inadvertent wildlife sanctuary. Yet, beneath its serene facade, the DMZ represents ongoing tensions, with both Koreas remaining in a technical state of war. The Korean War intensified the Cold War, cementing the division between the communist and capitalist blocs. It prompted NATO to strengthen, while the Warsaw Pact formed in response. This local conflict had global repercussions, setting the stage for subsequent Cold War confrontations and an arms race that would span decades. Despite being called the Forgotten War, the Korean War's legacy endures, influencing modern media and culture. It's portrayed in films, books, and TV shows, shaping perceptions of heroism, sacrifice, and the complexities of war. These cultural artifacts remind us of the conflict's lasting impact on geopolitics and the human condition. The Korean War may be known as the Forgotten War, yet its echoes are felt even today. While overshadowed by World War II and Vietnam, it carved deep geopolitical lines and personal stories of valor, captured not only in history books but also hearts and minds, lest we forget its enduring legacy. As we acknowledge the armistice that silenced the guns, we cannot ignore the war's human toll. For veterans and their families on both sides, the scars remain, a testament to the sacrifices endured. Their stories of loss, resilience, and hope continue to reverberate through the generations. The Korean War's conclusion, without a formal peace treaty, leaves a legacy of tension on the peninsula and beyond. The demilitarized zone stands as a stark symbol of division, influencing inter-Korean relations and shaping geopolitical dynamics. Today's international engagements with North Korea are still colored by the conflict's unresolved status. And with that, we close our chapter on the Korean War. Thank you for exploring this pivotal moment in history with Spectrum Sphere. If this video has illuminated this forgotten conflict for you, please show your support by liking and subscribing. Join us again for more thought-provoking content each week.